about? Yeah, when the levee breaks. Give that man a fish. First started playing drums when I was a kid. I had three big heroes. It was first it was Ringo Starr, then it was Keith Moon, and then I discovered John Bonham. And as much as I love all three drummers, I mean, Ringo was such a great straight drummer and played for the band and played for the songs. Keith was such a animated drummer. I mean, I just was so inspired by how crazy he was on stage, and his drumming was just so chaotic. But it was Bonzo that had all these classic drum intros. In fact, you know a bunch of them, but there's such a long list of them. So it was, let's see, it was like, well, you had, it's the very first thing you heard was Good Times, Bad Times. Cowbell's down here. So that was the very first drum thing you heard from the very first Zeppelin album, but then the list goes on and on and on. You had rock and roll. You had the crunge. Which is also De La Soul, 3 is a magic number. And then you had, speaking of rappers sampling John Bonham, the very, very opening to the first Beastie Boys album starts with John Bonham's drums. It's, of course, When the Levee Breaks, but it starts with a... And you have The Rover. So the point is, John Bonham was like my first drum hero that had all of these cool drum intros. The groove on Fool in the Rain, which is a kind of cool swing thing. So he was the man. He was the groove master.
And I remember probably Tangerine by Zeppelin was like the first like chord song that I learned.
After having played the guitar for a couple years and basically running through all the power chords I possibly could and learning a ton of Metallica songs, very wrongly, by the way, I wanted to try to start tackling solos. Even though it felt like they were out of my grasp, I was just like, I gotta do it. I think I tried a couple before I got around to Stairway to Heaven because I was just like, this solo is amazing and I want to learn to play like this. And I knew digging through it, I was doing it very wrong. I knew instinctively by how difficult and awkward it was, I had to be doing this wrong. I took lessons for all of like a month and a half or 2 months or something, and they were mega valuable. For even that short amount of time, it unlocked scales and solos and double stops and just this completely different aspect to playing guitar that I hadn't had before.
Also, in that box of records, the suspect box of records that showed up at my place, there was also, there was a bunch, but there was Led Zeppelin 4. I remember Black Dog coming on. I don't know if it's the bass of the guitar. Oh yeah, that's this thing. It just sounds so dark. And then Robert Plant belts into his vocal, hey, hey, mama.
Yeah, and...
that main riff that just sounded so badass. And
Right.
the Bonham's beat behind it.
One that gave me a little bit of trouble initially was the riff for Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. I think because I'd only been playing for a few months at that point, but it still felt pretty good to get it on. Now I haven't even rehearsed this, so this could be interesting.
I guess the first riff that made me like interested in the guitar was probably Led Zeppelin's "Over the Hills and Far Away." My dad was my gymnastics coach growing up, so like he'd take me to practice, and on the way to practice we'd like listen to cassettes and stuff, and he had Led Zeppelin albums, Metallica, and Tool albums. And I remember just hearing the beginning lick to that Led Zeppelin song, and it just had this mystical sound to it. I remember just being like really intrigued by just the way it sounded. And so it goes like this.
What was the song that made you go down the rabbit hole, my brother?
Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page, with the dragon pants and the double neck guitars. And I always wanted the Les Paul because of him. Everything that he ever did is great and just contributes to rock and roll. So anything he did was way cooler than anything anybody else has ever did.
Once you bought that first guitar and you were sitting in your room, you were playing, what was the song that you could not wait to master? It was the song that was going to be your defining moment when you knew you were meant to play this instrument.
Oh, geez. I think this is kind of predictable, but maybe Stairway to Heaven. Because I know that, I was like, if I can learn this, the girls will dig me. Let's try it. Oh. I don't know it.
They still dig you, though. Don't worry about it.
Something like that. Anyway, but I was like, I gotta learn that, man. I'll be very popular. I'm tripping out because I'm sitting next to Bob fucking Rock.
Mr. Trainer.
So many questions. Still Zepp, probably Ramble On, which actually I just did a recording with Bob a couple months ago, and I said I started playing Ramble On, and he told me I was playing it wrong, and as usual he was right, and I had to go back and listen to it. So I think it's something like a... So just like stuff like that, where I think in modern music, people don't, Jimmy played every single verse and chorus differently, and there was a lot of flavor and a lot of kind of slop and sauce going on around that, and I think even young kids today kind of pick up on that, like what's special about that generation of music, what's special about Sabbath, what's special about Zeppelin is that those dudes were playing the whole way through. And so that inspired me as a kid, and I think it still inspires kids today.
I progressed to learning riffs from bands like Led Zeppelin. A big one for me was Heartbreaker. I remember being on a boat one time and hearing that for the first time, and it was just like the best thing ever. So my number one guitarist was always Jimmy Page from the band Led Zeppelin. And to this day, he still is too. I just loved the imagery of that band, how they had such a vast array of styles, anywhere from acoustic music all the way to hard rock electric stuff, anywhere in between. I love the versatility. And yeah, Jimmy Page just being the producer behind all the records, one of the main songwriters, great guitarist, he's always been my favorite.